Mr. Q here. Today's topic has been requested by a lot of you. Thanks for doing that, by the way. Keep requesting stuff. We're gonna do it. Just putting it out there. Time to get into the video. Civil War. Let's do this. There's been lots of civil wars throughout history. That's when one part of a country fights another part of the country instead of a whole other country. England's done this a few times. China had a big one. And there's one going on in Syria right now, which is actually a really sad situation. But we're going to talk about the one that happened in America. Now, the United States was founded 240 years ago with the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But you could argue that the moment that we really became a nation is 151 years ago. That's when we decided not to break up into two different countries. But why did people even want to do that in the first place? In a word, slavery. Let's look at some background. For hundreds of years, Africans were kidnapped and shipped to America to work in the fields. States in the South had agricultural economies, which is another way of saying they made money from farms. A lot of them thought it was their God-given right to keep slaves. States in the North had industrial economies, which means that they made stuff in factories with machines. During the 1840s and the 1850s, people kept moving west and created new territories to live in. A lot of these territories wanted to become new states. A compromise was reached between the North and the South, saying that any new state could join the Union if they didn't have slavery. Which brings us to the presidential election of 1860. A new political party called the Republicans ran on an anti-slavery platform. Their nominee was Abraham Lincoln. The South didn't like it when he won. A bunch of states left the Union, elected their own president, called Jefferson Davis, called themselves the Confederate States of America, and even printed their own money. The war started when the Confederates attacked Fort Sumter, and everyone had to pick a side. Battles raged for years. In 1863, Lincoln freed the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation, and lots of African Americans were allowed to join the army in the North. Most people agreed that the tide turned with the Battle of Gettysburg, and within 2 more years, the North had won. Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant on April 9, 1865. Slavery was no more, and the United States was preserved. All in all, 2% of all of America died in the Civil War, which would be the equivalent of 6 million people today. Unfortunately, one of the last people to die was Abraham Lincoln himself. He was shot by a Confederate sympathizer just 5 days after the South surrendered.